All right, now getting away from Thon Maker, getting away from the draft. Well, not really getting away from the draft because this man loves the NBA draft and loves accumulating picks. But we're going to talk about Sam Hinkie resigning as the Philadelphia 76ers head GM. I was going to say head GM. GM. What do you think about this move for Sam Hinkie? Do you think it's going to be the right move for the Philadelphia Sixers in the long run? Do you think Hinkie was really doing well with his plan? Do you think the plan was working out well? And do you think this might put the Sixers back even worse somehow?
Are we for sure that the plan is going to change with Hinkie out? Or was this okay, well, we're losing a lot and you're kind of the spokesperson for what we're doing here, so we're basically going to sacrificial goat you, and you're out the door, you take all the blame, but we still continue to do what the plan is, and that's trust in the process.
But what if they don't do the process the way Hinkie saw the process? I mean,
that's what I'm asking. Are we changing the process? Is the process becoming a different thing now, or is it he's just a sacrificial lamb?
Then I think he's going to end up as a sacrificial lamb because he's taken all the losses. I think career-wise in his 3 years, he had about 55 wins or so.
Around there. About 20 the first 2 seasons and now 10 this season.
So you can't keep someone, regardless of however good the plan sounds, in a position like that publicly. There's no way you can afford to do that. As an organization, everyone looks in and just says, nope, you gave up on this. You're just saving money and making money, and that's your whole thing. You don't care about basketball. But I feel in my heart of hearts that Sam Hinkie actually wants to see the Sixers succeed. He wants to see this franchise. All of his moves obviously aren't golden, but the ones that, he has made, there's potential for him to pay off really well. Really big.
But now, I mean, you look who's now taking over. You're going to have Jerry Colangelo and his son take over. Do you think the Colangelos can really...
The
Colangelos. Do you think they can really further this process? And do you think they can take all this potential that the Sixers have in Okafor, Embiid, Noel,
Did you just say Okafor?
Okafor.
You think he's got more potential? I think this is his game, and that's what it is at this point.
I think he's got more potential. I mean, from a defensive side, he can develop. He could still turn in. I mean, maybe he develops a further shot, but I mean, Embiid, we haven't even seen if he could stay healthy.
Yeah.
Noel doesn't have really an offensive game. He's a great shot blocker, so I mean, Noel and Okafor work well together. So do you think they can take that potential and even push it further, especially if they get the number 1 draft pick?
I think moves like Embiid, where every warning under the sun was given that this man is a walking injury and he won't see the court, and regardless, they still took him. Moves like that is why Sam Hinkie probably isn't here anymore, because if he had been injury-free, would have been a top pick overall, not even questionable. He has an elite offensive and defensive game. He can play, flat-out play. But if you can't get on the court, it doesn't matter. What I do love is the fact that the glimpses of Embiid that we have seen, looks like he's been a workout monster. He's completely built up, and I think on the court he would just rip people to shreds, but we need to actually see him on the court.
See, the 76ers, I don't think that just because Hinkie's gone that, they're going to start winning games. Here's the thing you need to do.
Well, you need talent on that
you're
team
the seven. No, not just talent.
But I'm just saying to win games.
You need veterans. And I look at this team, no fucking veterans.
Carl Landry, Elton Brand are veterans.
They need to go out and get a guy. They need to make a big free agent splash. The thing is, it's hard to do that when your team sucks. That's exactly it. You can't convince anyone to go to Philly.
For how many millions of dollars?
Unless Kobe was not retiring and you'd convince him to come home one more year.
No, Kobe would never come home.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying.
Never.
And Kobe's not going to add anything.
They need to get something in free agency that's going to help them. Because that's the thing that I think this team is lacking, is that veteran kind of, not a superstar, but somebody that's like, okay, he's our star. He's our veteran star player. That's what they're missing.
I mean, but you think? You got to draft people. I mean, they obviously have the draft picks to draft someone who could turn into the superstar.
But I'm saying they need. That's the main part they're missing, is they've got all these fucking rookies and youth.
Well, I mean, they've had good performances in the past. They've had Michael Carter Williams, who came out and was the top rookie in the NBA. He all-star style performance.
But I'm not
and
talking.
they gave him up.
I'm not.
But he also hasn't done anything since they gave him up.
I'm not
So that's
talking
the
about
thing.
just performance. I'm talking about. I look at the 76ers and I don't see like a for sure leader like with the Bulls. You could say either Derek or Jimmy. With the Lakers, you say it's Kobe. With I mean, I know those are superstars, but they don't have that veteran. It's like boom.
See,
it's his team.
the thing that you're talking about here, though, it feels like you're saying that Sixers should be good right now. I don't think the Sixers are even close to being good, and I think
No, I don't think they should be good.
I
I'm
think they're a
saying
year
take
away
it.
from the Timberwolves of this year.
I think they're a kind of further than that. But I mean, like, still, I think Hinkie had this plan. He had this idea, and he was furthering it through. And now I don't see this plan being furthered, and I don't see this becoming a thought out plan where the Timberwolves had a thought out plan. Like, they had a star, a veteran kind of. He was developing into a veteran in Kevin Love, but they saw that they can get more than just that, and they could have a brighter future. So they obviously went and did that. And now they are looking like they're going to be an NBA championship contender in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think with losing Hinkie, you're gonna lose that vision, and I think you're gonna really get taken over here by like the idea of we need to be good so we get money. So they're gonna throw money at like top free agents, but they're not either gonna come or they're gonna get the wrong free agents, and I don't think it's gonna work out. I think the Sixers are gonna still be in this state where they're gonna be terrible.
I feel like the Sixers, for whatever reason, and I mean, I know Hinkie's not there anymore, but like I could see them dropping cash on like Dwight Howard or Whiteside, because you know what they need? Another big center.
I completely agree.
Like,
I see them
this team-
fucking up royally.
Yeah, I'm with you. Free agency, they need to land a guard. Period. They need a veteran guard or at least a semi-experienced guard to help this team because they've got big talent out the fucking asshole. And like they've got them stashed overseas. They've got them on the bench. They've got them on the injured list. Like everywhere you look, you got bigs. You need a guard. You need someone who can handle the ball well. We've seen some good things out of TJ McConnell, but the problem is it's just because he's gotten the most playing time.
I mean,
It's Michael Carter-Williams syndrome.
This is kind of like surprising.
When you're by default the only one with the ball.
Because you're talking
look
about
good.
you're talking about no guard for 76ers. Your boy Ish Smith is on this team. And you're not
I
giving
love Ish, but he's going to be a free agent.
Yeah, all right.
Ish has proved enough that he will go somewhere else and be a backup.
And just think of this, and this is the one thing that I think kind of sums up the whole Hinkie. I know that there have been things written, things said that, you can't judge the Hinkie kind of era just yet. It's going to take some time.
Absolutely.
But this is something where it was just in 2012, so 4 years ago.
Yep.
This Sixers team was a playoff team that beat the Bulls. Yes, Derrick Rose got injured, but they beat the 50-win, 16-loss Bulls, who I thought, hey, you know what? We actually may have a shot to meet the Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals that year. And then we lose to the Sixers. And then the next year, they were still like a 9th seed or the 9th spot in the East. And now they're like, what, a 9-win team?
Evan Turner,
10 win.
Thaddeus Young,
No, that's
Spencer
what I'm saying.
Hawes.
Like everything,
They
is-
emptied out their core.
Like why? Like that alone is like that is what you have become. This team was on the verge of you're either going to make it and move up, kind of like what we're talking about the Celtics this year, or you can go in reverse, and they went in reverse and they just fucking tanked.
but then they still have all these picks.
But yeah, I mean, see, you look at that team that you mentioned, the 2011, 2012. I mean, you had Andre Iguodala, who was in the Sixers for forever, but he really never took that leap, and you could tell that he was getting tired. So they're like, all right, let's make a move for someone who we think has a lot of potential in Andrew Bynum, and then they did the whole trade with Melo, and then Bynum came here, and then they sent on.
Spencer Hawes was on that team.
Yeah.
His favorite player.
Vucevic, who's now on the Magic, was on that team. Evan Turner, who's now kind of found a rejuvenation in his career on the Celtics. You had Thad Young backing up Andre Iguodala. You had Drew Holiday. Lou Williams was on that team.
They had a pretty solid team.
They did, and it's just. But you also could see why they went away from that, because Andre Iguodala was getting older, and now he's doing fantastic in the Warriors, but he's also the sixth man. He's not the guy anymore.
You know
so.
what?
If they had Andre Iguodala, they traded him when his trade value was high
Right.
enough. Probably traded for the wrong guy and Andrew Bynum, obviously. But and then you look at Evan Turner. He never really developed in the Sixers. Now he's trying to, he's got the right coach around him and Brad Stevens. Drew Holiday has always been. He does everything well, but he doesn't do anything like fantastic.
Right.
So I think it was smart enough. I think it was a smart idea to
They
get
sold
away from that.
high
Yeah, they did.
on majority of their players, but not all. I'd say almost too few of them have paid out where they should have. I mean, yes, you've got great potential, guys, but no one has taken that next step and actually established himself as an NBA star, really.
Well, yeah, I think Embiid would have been that guy, but he's consistently hurt. Noel, I mean, he was hurt, so he really didn't get the chance to develop. Now Okafor stepping into where he's got no one around him, so he can develop. So I think it's more of, the plan looked bright, and the plan still has its spots where it can succeed. But I think it was just a lot of bad luck on the side of the Sixers. And I think getting rid of Hinkie or pushing Hinkie out the door, because that's what it kind of seems like, was the wrong move for Philadelphia.
I think the one question I have, or the one comparison I want to make is it's very similar to college football, even, where it's you'll see a head coach, put in time with the team, and they may not do great, but he's starting to bring in his guys. And all of a sudden, you see that impact made 2-3 years later. And when a new coach comes in, takes over, an instant success, like Charlie Weiss, Notre Dame style, it's you see him make this success, and it's like, well, those aren't his guys.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we're going to see with the Colangelos, unless they decide that, look, this whole thing was stupid. We're going to go and we're going to get NBA level talent right now. We're going to trade our assets, and we're going to get a team out there for you.
I think that's what I think the plan is going to be. Because
do you think that's the right move?
I see that flopping.
You know what?
Flopping.
The way I see it is they're going to lean towards that because they've been putting a stinker out there so long. They've been putting a stinker out there so long.
They're putting the worst team out there.
There have been loyal fans that have been like, fuck this team. Like Stephen A., who has been like Philly, talking about Philly, being from Philly. Don't even want to talk about that team. I don't want to talk about that team because they disgrace me so much. Are some of the things you hear. Of course, we get the fans that travel to Brooklyn and go, we got draft picks.
Which is just fantastic.
And get to taunt the Nets.
They could have gone that route, which is, let's go get ourselves established players and make this playoff push.
The aging Big Two, or Big Three.
And it's just like, look, you have no future.
You know what I think is ironic? If you go back to that 11-12 season, 76ers, 35 wins. Charlotte Bobcats, 7 wins. Look at them now. Almost the exact difference.
Fair enough, but I mean, they also drafted, and they
say Charlotte Bobcats ended up.
The Bobcats are actually 10 wins above where the Sixers were then, and the Sixers are 3 wins better than.
Because they got talent in the draft.
Yeah, they got Kemba Walker. And they got,
Well, I'm just saying, look at that's 2 different, the Hornets are a team that not even do, not many teams are doing this trust the process shit,
right.
But they're a team that, look at that, they were 7 wins 4 years ago. Now they're the 6th seed in the East, and I know the East is weaker than the West.
But that's the thing. So they have built that team up through the draft and free agency. And I think that's the downside of Hinkie is he only wanted to use the draft.
Yep.
He did not use free agency like most other teams. He saw it as, I'm going to go out and I'm going to sign some cheap guys and just bring them in to fill out the roster, and I'm gonna let my youth play.
I think he's
like the reverse Tom Thibodeau.
I think if he had one more season where he could have gotten a guy in this draft,
if he goes out and gets like a Ben
why
Simmons,
are you not in your head?
I want to. If this team gets Ben Simmons in the draft, are you telling me that Hinkie doesn't look like a genius?
The guy that we're saying needs to develop a better jump shot and isn't as NBA ready as players that we've seen.
I think Brandon Ingram. It's the same question.
I think the thing is with the Sam Hinkie process is you don't give him another year because even if he got someone from this draft, it doesn't change the problem. The problem is what we've been saying. Oh, well, they need time to develop. Well, in 3 years, he may look like a genius, but as of right now, even getting a guy in the draft, it hasn't worked thus far. So what makes you think it's going to work right away? It hasn't always
worked. It's worked for some people. Like we said, Okafor has turned out great.
Look at Minnesota.
They've got talent. Dario overseas who could come over and instant impact. It's just the fact that up to this point, not enough moves have been made correctly. So I could see them going out, gain a Ben Simmons in this draft. Actually, I'm sorry, they have 4 picks this.
Well, if the Lakers fall to 4, they can get 1 and 4.
Yeah,
or even less. I mean, they can get
they're going to end up with multiple impact players.
They have about 4 draft picks.
And the one thing I want to say about the keep, because this is the second time we've mentioned the Timberwolves.
Well, that's because the team did it right.
I know. I just want to say that number one, Andrew Wiggins was a guy they got some of their young talent.
It helps get
through a trade, but also Andrew Wiggins more NBA ready than even if I would say Andrew Wiggins when he came out more NBA ready than like an Ingram or a Simmons.
No.
I would take Andrew Wiggins.
I would take Ben Simmons. I think Ben Simmons is going to be better than Wiggins. And
Wiggins is an amazing closer. He can score so many different ways. But Ben Simmons has an all-around game that's comparable to a handful of people in the NBA all time. That's his upside.
This kid can be LeBron James. So I mean, I think if he had a LeBron James, I think that's worth
what we're
the
seeing out of
tank.
Giannis in the last 2 weeks of this season is what we're expecting to see out of him,
but better,
very early on.
But even better,
exactly.
Like we can see that escalation. I think if you're a Sixers fan, I think you should be kind of disheartened by Sam Hinkie leaving because you don't have this guy with a plan. You don't have this idea. And while you have to suffer a bit, you have to suffer for 3 years. If you have Ja and you have Nerlens and you have Embiid and you have Saric and you have Simmons, you have all these guys, and I know all of those guys are over like 6'10", but if you have all those guys and all of those develop in the way you want, this is a championship contender that could be a dynasty. Like that's a team that is a monster. It's just you need that time to develop, and you're getting rid of the guy who was worth and ready to wait for it. You're giving Philadelphia a future that they can hope for, and now they really don't because now they don't know if they're going to have any of these guys because the Colangelos might think, all right, we're going to get rid of Okafor and we're going to try to bring in someone who's ready, and we might make a mistake and get the wrong guy. We might bring someone in like I really don't know like who would Ja bring in, and who's even on the trade block, but they might bring in a guy who is overrated or is kind of on the latter half of his career, and that might totally just screw up this whole process of the Sixers.
The one thing I keep thinking is and this goes back to any sport nowadays, it's win now. You don't have it's like Dave said with the college.
Quicker turnaround because the impact of one player matters so much more.
I'm not even saying just basketball, but like you brought up college football, it's the same thing. A college coach comes in, you got to almost win right away because you don't have that 4 years.
Yeah, you could recruit fantastic in 2 years, but if your team's not performing now, it doesn't matter what those guys will be.
Yeah, it's a win now. And the one draft that I go back to that you mentioned was the Embiid draft. The one thing, and I know all the could-have, should-haves, what-ifs, but I'm throwing out one here. What if they didn't go with Embiid and they went with a guy like Marcus Smart or even an Aaron Gordon who went right after at 4? Just somebody different with Embiid. Would that have changed things enough?
Yeah, because you would have had a guy to be there.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Embiid really hasn't.
That's what I'm saying.
He's played 10 games?
No,
basically
that's what I'm saying. Like even if it's a Julius Randle or anybody that went after Embiid, I think that's the defining moment.
But out of those players, you still look at Embiid, and I'm going, he still has a higher upside. Having not played a single game, like being injured,
if he can stay healthy.
But when does having a bigger upside eventually turns to we gotta fucking win games, bro?
Word of the day: potential, people.
Yep.
Potential.
And now we're gonna.
It makes the NBA draft go batshit.